Understanding where you're going matters more than where you're at. Or, in other words, direction is more important than your position. And I'm here to explain why that is the case, right? So let's just say you are a small content creator. But even though you're a small content creator, you have your mind made up that you are going to one day be large on this platform, that you are going to be providing value to people all around the world, that you are going to be serving as many people as possible, right? You have a direction. You want to grow on this platform. So the very logical process would be for you to provide content, for you to continuously record videos and post videos on this platform. That is you understanding where you're going. And that is also what makes someone a success, because someone becomes successful once they are clear in their mind of what it is that they want to do, right? The goal that they created, their North Star. Once they have that, as long as they're making progress towards that goal, that is what makes them successful. So if your goal is to, one day be a large content creator, let's just say we make it tiny. Let's say the goal is to be a channel that has 1 million subscribers. And right now you're a small channel. You understand the direction that you want to go, and you understand what's required, and you continuously make progress towards that goal. That not only makes you successful, but as long as you continue at it, you will eventually get there, right? Another great example that I like to think about, I like to think of it as whenever you're using a GPS and you're going for a drive, right? Say, for example, you're going on a road trip. Doesn't matter if the road trip is 2-hour drive or a 10-hour drive, right? Once you put in the GPS and it gives you the directions, as long as you continue heading in that direction towards the destination, you will eventually get there. See, that is always going to be better than the position that you're at, or the position that you're in. Because if someone is a large content creator and they've already made it to the top, if they're at the top but they no longer have any direction of where they want to go, then it will be inevitable for their channel to drop. It will be inevitable for the fall off to happen. And that is because without any direction, they remain stagnant. But even if they remain stagnant, they're not going to remain in the same position, because there are going to be other channels that are going to continue growing. And there's probably going to be people who are deciding to unsubscribe from their platform, right? Like, you can see how this all happens, right? Nothing in this world ever stays the same. There's the only constant in this reality is change, because the world is always moving forward. The world is always advancing. Technology is always improving. And so if you're someone that stays the same, which is, you being in a certain position but not having any direction, then if the world is advancing but you're staying the same, then the gap is always going to slowly increase, right? So it is actually more important, more beneficial for you to focus on the direction that you're going, right? You giving attention to where it is you're traveling, rather than wherever it is that you're at, rather than the position itself. And this is also in alignment with you as a creator, right? Because you as a creator, you're always creating, right? And it's not, even though some people may feel that there's moments where they feel stuck in life, it's not that, like, that can't happen, because life is always happening. It's just that people are unaware of the thoughts that they're thinking and the energy that they're vibrating, so they keep attracting the same things over and over and over, and that's how someone stays stuck in their life. But with the idea of creation, you are always actively creating. And so if you know where it is that you want to go in life, right? If you created that picture, that vision of where it is that you want to head to, then you knowing where you want to go, right? That's you understanding the direction that you want to travel to. So it becomes much easier and better for you to head in the direction, because now there's clarity of as far as where you want to go, right? But if you're at a certain position without any direction, where do you expect to go from there, right? There's not going to be anything to do. And this is a challenge that so many people face. They have a goal, a dream, something to chase after. They go towards that goal and that dream, they accomplish it, but they don't know what to do next. Or they thought that accomplishing the goal would give them so much happiness and joy that they would just feel complete, until they realize that when they get there, that it was never about the goal or destination. It was about the journey, and the journey itself is the direction. You see how all this is tied together? The journey is always going to be the most important, because the journey is what requires you to become more. It is what requires you to grow and to improve and to take those leaps. And right, it requires all of that for you to get to wherever it is that you're going. But it's never been about the destination. It's never been about the position. It's always been about growing towards there or improving to get there. See, the powerful part about understanding direction is that it doesn't matter where you start. Because for most people and for most things, right, we begin at zero. We begin at the beginning. And as long as you have direction, it doesn't matter your starting point, because you can control the end point. You can control where it is that you want to head towards. And that is powerful. And that's the way you need to look at life, right? It's never been about the position. It's never been about wanting to get there or to that destination. Because even when you get to that destination, chances are you're probably going to want to go on a new journey, because you're probably going to figure out which direction you want to go after getting there, right? That's the case with most people, right? We might have a dream where the dream is to one day live in a mansion, have our dream home. And we think that once we get the dream home, our life is going to feel complete, until we get that dream home. And then it eventually becomes the norm, because we'll get accustomed to living in that home. And then eventually we'll probably desire another dream home, because we already got comfortable with the current one, right? This is with all things in life. So this is why direction is always going to be more important than position, because a lot of times we think that the dream is actually to getting towards the destination, and that's what we strive for. But it's actually less about that, because once you get there, you've arrived. There's nothing else to do, right? GPS says you made it to your destination. Cool. If you don't have nowhere else to go, then you're just going to be stuck there forever. And I don't think anybody wants that, right? Having direction is always going to be what's most important. It doesn't matter where you're starting off. It doesn't matter if you're a small content creator, 0 views, 0 subscribers, 0 videos. If you know where you want to go, if you know the direction you're heading, then that's what matters. And as long as you continue heading in that direction, you will be successful, right? Because success is nothing more. Success is one decision away. It's the moment you make your mind up that you want to go accomplish something, you want to have something, accomplish something, and you're not going to let anything else stop it, right? That in your mind, you've already gotten there. And that's how you need to see it, right? For all of my small content creators, right? Even if you're a small content creator right now and you feel as though your videos aren't getting as much traction, don't look at it that way. Still show up as the content creator that puts out content as if you're speaking to 1 million subscribers, whatever your dream is, right? Imagine your channel being a big channel and you're speaking to thousands, millions of people. You need to see it that way, because that helps you with the direction that you're going, right? If you see yourself as one day being in that position, why not treat it as you already being there, right? Because if you do that, then you're going to put your focus where it needs to be, which is to grow your channel. But if you have a goal to one day be large, but then you treat the platform like a side hobby where you might post 1 video a month, right? Then you probably won't end up getting there, at least in the time frame that you're probably expecting, right? Or it might take way longer than you expected. So this is what I'm talking about. Like, this is why direction is so important, because as long as you have direction, doesn't matter your starting point, doesn't matter how long it's going to take. As long as you have your mind made up and you're clear on where it is that you're going, then you can make your way to the top. And once you're at the top, right, you still have direction, then you can still continue growing. Because if you're not moving forward, you're effectively moving backward. If you think it's all about just getting to a certain position in life, well, eventually you'll be at that position. But if you don't have anywhere to go from that position, then you'll eventually be brought back down. You eventually have your fall off. So the only way to continue growing and improving and getting better is by having that clarity. It's by understanding which direction I'm going to head towards, right? Understanding where you're going is always going to be more important than where you're at. Where you're at, for the most part, is irrelevant, because that is just your set of circumstances, and like all circumstances, they're always subject to change. So don't be worried, don't be concerned too much about where you're at, right? Focus on where you're going. Focus on the North Star, what you're shooting for, because you know how your life is going to be when you get there. And you should envision your life as already being there, so that you can operate from the person that's already achieved that goal. You don't, if you want to have a $1 billion business, right? You want to treat your business, if your business right now only has a couple sales, right? You still want to treat that business like a $1 billion business and give it the attention that it deserves, so that it can grow into the $1 billion business. You don't want to say or believe that you'll one day own a $1 billion business and then not care about the business in the early stages, because then how could you expect it to eventually get there, right? You want to be clear on the direction and focus on where it is that you're going, so that it can eventually build towards that, rather than you just, being fixated on where you're at, or looking around and thinking to yourself, oh, I'm at the bottom, therefore I'll never be at the top, right? It's silly to think, right? For a lot of young people, it would be silly to think that, for a lot of people who are young, probably haven't been married before. So it's probably silly to think that, oh, you haven't been married before, therefore you'll never be married. If you've never had a partner before, then you'll never have a partner, right? Like, it's silly to think that, right? That's with all things in our life. Just because we haven't accomplished something, haven't achieved something at some point in the past, doesn't mean it will never happen in the future, right? We have the power to create our future moving forward. And that is with understanding the direction, right? And where we want to go. So as long as we are clear with that in our minds, we know where we're going. So that will make us successful heading towards that goal, that dream. And that is always going to be more important than the current position, or just arriving at a certain destination. Is always going to be the journey that's most important. So that wraps up the video. Enjoy the video. Do leave a like and subscribe as you're on the road to 1 million subscriber, guys. So once again, it's Joel, and I'm out. I'll see you guys for the next video.